infinitesimal to what's going on. Okay. Now, somehow the train stops, I'm off, and I'm running, and there is a bar on the edge of the universe. Just a bar, attached to nothing, just hanging there. And I used to high jump and track in high school. And we had a thing, the Fosbury flop wasn't invented then. We had the Western roll. And where I started running towards the bar, I planted my left foot, I kicked up my right foot and to negotiate the bar and threw out my arms. And I am perfectly above the bar. And I stopped. And all of a sudden, there's this next dimension that is there. And I hear this voice internally says, okay, you can transition to your right and to go into the next dimension, or you can go back to existence as you knew it, but you cannot take your knowledge with you. And I'm intrigued by what's going on over here. And if there's clouds and spinning lights and things like that, and it kind of compresses and gets brighter, and I'm thinking. But then I said, I want to go back. And right there, everything went black. And I'm crawling on my hands and knees in this blackness, and I feel a tremendous sense of separation from everything. And I started calling out for my mother. Okay, now next thing, I'm back in my body again. And I thought, I'm really in trouble. I started to feel. Now this is the first sense of pain that I felt. And it was deep. Almost deep within the heart of my soul. And it started to get really, and I said, I'm not going to be able to tolerate this pain. So I might as well start working my lungs and drown myself. So when I started working my lungs, I began drifting to my right, and somehow through the waters I could see there were that Sherman paint commercial of red can being poured over the earth. I saw that, and then wait a minute, I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's all right.
Okay, I got to back up.
Yeah.
Okay, when I came back from a high jumping experience, okay, I'm there, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Next thing, I am back in my company area. Back in Fort Jackson. And I got my Class A uniform on. It's a beautiful, bright, sunny day. The grass is green, everything. And I wanted to know what time it was. And so I brought my wrist around. I looked down at my Bulova Accutron watch. Now, let me tell you the story about this Bulova Accutron watch. Back in 1965, it was in September, because I was a pilot and this was the hottest watch to have, the most accurate and everything.
Yeah.
I had to have one. So I went to Levia's jewelry store in Steele, my hometown, and said, Mr. Levia, I'd like to get a Bulova Accutron watch. And he says, Mike, they're really hard to get. He says, give me a $25 deposit and I'll try to get the watch for you, but it may take some time. Well, this was September. Well, of 65. Second week in January of 66, he calls me and say, Mike, your watch is in. And I said, Mr. Levy, I said, you know, I think the watch was like $175 at the time. And I said, I can't afford it because, you know, in a couple days, I'll be going in the Army, you know, as a Private 1. And so, look, you can keep the $25, that's okay. He says, no, Mike, I want you to have the watch. Now, when you get out of basic training and get stationed, then you can send me money and pay it off. But he said, in fact, I had to tell the Bulova watchman, or salesman, a little white lie. I said that my church needed it to give to a pilot that was shot down in Vietnam. And so here I am looking at my Bulova Accutron watch. Okay, now, I'm back in my body, and then when I started working my lungs and going and seeing the Sherman where you paint, I go into this kind of theater, a small theater, and that had like poster lighting, black poster lighting.
Yeah.
Okay, but the stage was well lit. And on this stage was an elderly woman, well, elderly at the time for me, she was like about 65, gray hair, glasses, sitting there, black dress, hands folded on the desk, just giving me this beautiful smile. Now I got to tell you about Barbara Treader. Right before I left Harrisburg area to go to Vietnam, I stopped in to see my mother, who has worked for the state at her office. And we were talking, and I told her I bought a book on graphology that I was going to analyze everybody's handwriting that sent me letters, you know. And she said to me, well, you know, my friend Barbara reads palms. I want you to read. I want you to let her read your palm. And I thought, oh, okay, Mom. And so, you know, I went and she started, and she's going. And one of the things she said, she says, "You'll be married and have 4 children." And the reason I remembered 4 children was because my fiance and I, you know, we talked about having 4 kids.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then she said, don't go in business because you're not a business person. And then she said, at one point in your life, you're going to encounter a situation that would have killed any number of people. But you will live. And when I saw her and her smile, I'm going to live. And next thing, I'm in a very dark cavern or whatever. And I look up and I see this bright light, and it just comes and it hits me. And I come out and I hear a machine gun fire. I hear this medic screaming at me, you got to breathe, sir. And I take my first breath and I say to myself, Jesus Christ, I got to go through this dying experience one more time in my life. And I take my second breath and I say, why is this kid calling me sir? Doesn't he know I want to breathe? And now, here's the other part of the story. All right. What it was either a mortar round or an RPG went off, and when my hand hit that box lid, a piece of shrapnel penetrated my helmet, went through my skull, severed my transverse sinus, and lodged in the right occipital lobe of my brain. It blew my helmet off. And as the medic later told me, his name's Dwayne Garver. He said, when I came upon you, your crew was dropping you back in the rice paddy waters, and one of them turned to me and said, let him go, he's dead. And because I had stopped breathing and that. And he said, I saw an interior spurt out of the back of your head. I knew your heart was still beating. And he said, I grabbed you, I threw you up against the rice paddy dike and started giving you mouth to mouth. And while I was doing that, I reached in, pulled out a bandage and applied direct pressure trying to stop the bleeding. And that's when you came around. And he said, I only had to give you a couple shots of breath.
Mhm.
And I thought, I was out for 20 minutes.
Right.
I mean, I was all over everywhere. And he says, no, you were only out a couple minutes. So anyhow, so he got me patched up. Now I can't move. My vision is extremely blurred,
Okay.
and he had me cradled, and he kept saying, stay with me, I'll get you out, I'll get you out. And he started dragging me, and I remember the box lid, and I thought, oh man, I triggered a mind. I thought, okay, I did what I call an extremities check.
Mhm.
I started moving my hand that was underwater, and I blurred. I had tips of my fingers, so I knew I had my right arm.
Okay.
And he had me cradled in such a way that I was able to get my left arm up, and I could see my fingers. I still had my right. And then it took forever, but first I could see my right toe break the water and my left toe break the water. So I had all my extremities, and I had no idea where I was headed. And seriously, and it was like being super, super drunk.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if you've ever been there, but okay, all right. Well, anyhow, and I'm just I was able, I learned his name, Dwayne Garver, and he said he was from Detroit, Michigan. Well, he outside.
Yeah.
And I said, your Tigers are 3 down to the Yankees. He says, yeah. I said, it doesn't look too good, does it? No, this is World Series.
Right.
Yeah, okay. And the Tigers lost the first 3 games. And he kept saying, stay with me, I'll get you out, I'll get you out. And eventually, he got me to this collection point. And on the video, you can see real quickly, the helicopter came in, and I feel people grabbing me, and like a sack of potatoes, they threw me through the cargo bay door,
Mhm.
and I landed right on top of a guy, and he started screaming and yelling. I said, look, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Next thing, guy comes down on top of me, and
Just about getting you guys out, isn't it?
yeah.
As many as possible.
And the only thing I can remember is, being a helicopter pilot, I could sense when we went through transitional left. I don't remember the lift off or, just that's the only part of the flight I remember. Next thing I know, people were grabbing me. They threw me on a stretcher, and there was some commotion, and later I found out the commotion. There was a cameraman on board the helicopter that filmed all this. He had the camera in my face, and Gene Neal didn't appreciate that. And he sacked the cameraman.
Well, good for Gene.
Yeah.
Yeah, get him out of there. You don't.
Yeah, get him out of here.
Yeah.
And so, next thing, they took me in. This was at Dongtam, though I later learned, and They took one look at me, and next thing, I'm on another helicopter, and I remember going through transitional lift again, and next thing, they're grabbing me and pulling me off, and I'm at the 24th of back at Long Bend, which is just around the corner from my company.
Okay.
And then the next thing I remember, male voices and doctors said, let's just take this guy first. And it wasn't me. So they're doing some type of triage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the next thing I remember, some kid, I'm sorry, sir, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you, I'm sorry. And what he was doing, he was shaving my head for the operation.
Right.
And I felt this blood coming down over my face. And it felt good because it was warm.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I was cold, I guess shaking and shock and everything. Next thing I remember, I couldn't see anything at the time. I just remember I heard female American nurse voices. 6 months in Vietnam, and they started, we're losing him. And I could hear them pound. And then I could hear the springs in the bed go back and, you know, squeak.
Yeah.
The guy next to me in this ICU, whatever it was, they were trying to get him going. And then I heard a male voice say, we lost him. And the next thing I remember, there, I felt this slap right here on my leg. And I look up, and there's John Sonia. He's wearing his fatigue uniform with blue infantry ascot that we wore as basic training officers. And John says to me, come on, Mike, you're not playing fair. I said, John, what are you talking about? You're not playing fair, you're dead. I said, John, I'm not dead, I made it. No, you didn't, now play fair. And so we got in this argument. And then he kind of looked at me and gave me a smile. Was gone. And next thing I remember, this guy, Afro-American, grabbing the bed I was on and giving this big smile saying, you made it, Mike, you made it. You're going home, you're going home. And he was wearing white scrubs with Staff Sergeant gold stripes and everything, wheeled me out. And it was bright then. This room I was in was kind of really dark, so to speak. And I had this, I guess it was the doctor. He says, Mike, ask me my name, you know, where I was born, you know, things like that. He says, now, can you move your right hand and arm? So I started moving it. And all of a sudden, you know, people were clapping and cheering. And moving my left and it going through. And when I started to move my legs, they really started cheering. I thought, man, what a ham. And so it was a day or two later, the neurosurgeon that operated on me. And basically what he had, well, he came and he gave me my Purple Heart. And he said that they got this shrapnel and they had to remove part of my brain, and they were able to stop the bleeding and everything. And I said, Doc, my vision is totally screwed up. And he says, well, if you don't get your vision back in 6 months to a year, it's permanent brain damage. And I said, I still got this loud ring in my ear. And he said, well, Mike, it's the same thing. He says, but I want you to understand, that hit you took in the head would have killed any number of people. Almost verbatim what Barbara
Right.
Tedder told me. But, you know, why you live, I don't know. You're one in a million. Man, you're fortunate that you made it this far. So,
Well, how long were you in the hospital for?
well, I figured I was at Long Bend for about 10, 12 days.
Okay.
I don't remember. And then they medevaced me to 249th Army Hospital in, I think it was Osaka, Japan. Okay. And it was, and I got to tell you this story. I get there, and this place is brightly lit, it's clean, and everybody's in white. And my vision is starting to get back.
Okay.
I'm back, and the hearing, the sound is starting to go down, so to speak, and everything. And then this nurse walks by, and I said, "Nurse." She comes over, I said, "Would you get my teddy bear down at the foot of the bed?" And she says, "Teddy bear?" "Yeah, the white polar teddy bear." So she hands me the pillow, and I start caressing it. I'm saying, "Nice bear, nice." She leaves and comes back with a neurosurgeon or neuro doctor or whatever.
Right.
And he started to ask me all kind of questions, and I said, "Doc, I have to confess, I was just teasing this nurse."
That's great.
And then, and I swear this is true. I don't think I was dreaming it. This guy comes by dressed all in white scrubs and everything, and he rolls up, he's got a little shopping cart, and says, "What kind of beer would you like?" I said, "Yeah." I said, I think I asked for a Miller's, you know, and reaches in, pops some Miller's. I took one sip, and with all the medication and everything, it was so horrible. But yeah, I swear it's true. Honestly, I wanted to check out to make sure I wasn't dreaming about this. Well, anyhow, I was getting ambulatory where so there was a guy across from me that was kind of in traction. And I went over and started talking to him. We started trading stories. Turned out he was on the helicopter behind me that crashed. And his name was Lieutenant Paul Ryan. And when we realized this and that we were, he says, "Congratulations, you were on television." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Yeah, I called my mother back in the States, and she saw me on ABC News. And you had to be in it too, because he was videotaping or photographing everybody.
Right.
Yeah, so that's how I knew that ABC News did a newscast on it. Well, anyhow, then this I'm in there, and then there was a warrant officer that was in the our ward, and he says, I remember you. We were down there. There was a drive-in in Mineral Wells, and these girls were giving us a really tough time. And you came over and started giving them a bunch of grief and about don't pick on us guys and everything. And so he asked the nurse if he could take me over to the officers club. They put me in a wheelchair, rode me over to the officers club, and started drinking beers and get my taste back. Well, what happened then was I broke out in this tremendous rash from head to toe. And they couldn't send me back to the States until they could find out what was causing this rash. So here I am, kind of stuck in Japan until I figure out what's going on. So finally they made the decision to take me off all medication, which included Dilantin.
Okay.
Okay, Dilantin is a drug to prevent seizures from head injuries.
Okay.
Okay, and so they were going to risk it. And as a result, I did not convulse. And so, and basically, and they found out that the rash was from penicillin.
Also, you had a penicillin allergy.
When I broke my arm, they pumped me with so much penicillin.
Yeah.
My body now is reacting to it, and so another cute story. While I'm there, they sent me to X-ray. I'm in this wheelchair, and one of the orderlies is saying, "Man, here, this guy, he must have got 150 cards and letters on his bed, big pile of them. He must be a movie star or something." And what I'm thinking, maybe there's a movie star on our ward. So after they did the X-rays, they rolled me back to my bed, and there's this big pile of cards and letters. Now, you got to understand, my Steel Town, beloved Steel Town, Steel, Pennsylvania, small school, played quad A football. We were the Sparta of the area.
All right.
Okay. And there was this big school, John Harris High School in Harrisburg. Okay. And they had more in their graduating class than we had in their whole high school. And we beat them in football that year. And the newspaper article, John Harris, like Jack Benny, stops at 39. They had a 39-game winning streak on when my high school beat them. So every card or letter I got had the newspaper clipping. And the fact that there's a bank that I dealt business with in Steelton before I went into service, they a small town, they knew me and everything. They sent me a cake. And on the cake, they had the score.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean this is my hometown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there I got it. I looked at it. I could see her writing right away. So it's from Bonnie and saying that she and her husband Frank were sorry to hear that I was wounded in Vietnam and things like that. And ironically, I said, well, one of the things this shot in the head did for me, I'm over that now. Okay.
I would hope so.
Yeah. So next thing, it's time to send me back to the States. And
well, before we go on, how long were you in country then? For your
6
first tour?
months.
6 months. Okay.
Yeah.
Then to Japan for some rehab, and now back to the States.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now, right before I'm ready to go back to the States.
Yeah.
Now, I told you I'm going to tell you this story.
Right.
Okay. All right. Anyhow, Paul Ryan and I we're both ambulatory now. So anyhow, but I didn't know this at the time. He got permission to go visit Tokyo. We got on a weekend pass.
All right.
And I got permission to go. And the neurosurgeon was saying, "Are you sure it can?" I said, "Just give me a little bottle of Darvon, Comp 65, and I'll be okay." So they did. And, Darvon was, they were dispensing it like aspirin at the time.
And now what is that? Pain reliever or?
Yeah, it's
okay.
Yeah, it's kind of an opiate.
Okay.
All right. So anyhow, and they're telling me how to. I had to take a local bus, and so I take this local bus. Now I'm the only American on there, And the bus driver is dressed immaculate. He's got blue pants, pressed shirt, belt, things like gloves, hat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, and so I'm driving, they're taking me, I'm on a local bus going to the train station.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, we stop, but I'm not at the train station, and everybody gets off. And a couple passed, started motioning me, get off, get off. I'm not there, no, off. So I get off, and we're all standing outside of the bus.
Yeah.
Well, there's a hostess on board too, and she's wearing a blue skirt and blouse, and she started sweeping down the bus, seats and everything. Unbelievable.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and we get back on.
Why?
And then takes us to, yeah, that was mandatory. At certain stops, they clean the bus.
Oh. Well, it was probably a nice bus then.
Oh. Yeah, oh yeah, which, okay, yeah. Well, I learned this about the Japanese. Now, I'm going to kind of slip back a little bit.
That's all right.
Okay, now back in my ward, there was a major, and he says, Mike, he says, you want to buy your stereo equipment now. And I'll help you pick out, PX and, get reel-to-reel and get all the stereo equipment, because that's what we all did at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, because you get it at ridiculous prices. And he says, right around the corner, there's a guy that'll box it up and ship it for you. Okay? So, bought, several boxes, big boxes, and he says, now watch this guy. Each box, this Japanese took a look at it, and all of a sudden, with paper, string and all that, and when he was done with each box, there was very little material left over. And it was totally unbelievable. And this major said to me, he says, you know why that is? He says, in Japan, they have very little material for industrial resources. They have to be very conscientious how they expend their materials when they make something. And what a lesson.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, because look at what they did in the automotive industry. Yeah, I mean, with that attitude, and really, I mean, this was indoctrinated in their culture.
Yeah.
Okay, anyhow, now back. Okay, go down to get on the train, the subway, or down under. It's immaculate, and it's so clean. I get in. It's one of those bullet trains.
Yeah.
Going to Tokyo, and you look down there, and you could see little pairs of shoes in the aisle. And what it is, if you had a child, you took off his or her shoes so that they could stand on the seats. They did not wear shoes on the seats. And then I go by apartment complexes, and all the people were out there going through exercise routines and things like this.
Really?
Really. Got into Ginza, which is okay. Got the elevator, came up, and here I am it's like Times Square of Tokyo, but it's so clean, so immaculate. And now I'm basically there, the only American, so to speak. All of a sudden, I run into this American woman. Her name was Dorothy, and she really recognized that I was American and everything.
Yeah.
So we started talking, and I said, well, she had to be back at school at like 3 o'clock or something like that, so we had a couple hours. I said, can I take you to lunch? Yeah, but we're not going to eat here, it's too expensive. So she started taking me through alleyways and everything, so we come to this one restaurant, and they had pictures that I could order from. I didn't know what I was, everything was Japanese.
Right.
And so our meals come, and they come with chopsticks. And man, I am fumbling all over. Well, there was a couple waitresses standing in the corner, and they're kind of
Yeah, oh, yeah.
laughing, and the manager saw this. He leaves. He comes back a couple minutes later with a fork and walks up to my table and goes like this.
Oh,
I mean, isn't that beautiful?
yeah, that's amazing.
Really.
We wouldn't, there's not many people in our culture who would be willing to do that, so
Yeah.
to hear the cultural differences is really
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, you know. Oh, okay. So now Dorothy left, and I'm wandering around, and I run into Paul Ryan, the tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like 6'5". And you know, the people were looking up at him, and you know, and he says, "Mike, there's a baseball game in town." He said, "Let's go to it." But yeah, he says, "Yeah, the Yomiuri Giants are playing the St. Louis Cardinals." I said, "You're kidding." He said, "Yeah." Says, Detroit came back and won 4 straight. and now St. Louis Cardinals are coming back and playing the Yomiuri Giants.
That's neat. I didn't know that the American teams were coming over there.
Oh, yeah.
That's
And,
crazy.
and so I got to see Bob Gibson pitch against Sahara O. And Sahara O was their Babe Ruth.
Oh, okay. See, I know nothing about
Oh, yeah.
Japanese baseball. I know very little about American baseball.
Yeah.
So Japanese is
And,
nothing.
and what was interesting, now they played our national anthem, so
Yeah.
you know, Paul and I stood up for it, and there's a bunch of cameras on us, so we were on national television in Japan. And if they hit a foul ball or a home run, they would throw the ball back in the field.
Oh, wow.
They didn't keep them. That going back to, you know, resources and everything.
That's true.
Yeah, everything fit. So then, you know, after we got back Monday, caught the Freedom Bird, and landed at Andrews Air Force Base, right outside of
DC?
DC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Maryland?
Yeah,
That's Andrews.
and put us on a bus, took us to Walter Reed,
Where's Walter Reed at?
Washington.
Okay.
Okay, and you know, I'm there, and you know, like, oh, wow, back in the United States finally. Now it's November. I got to give a shout out to the on the Freedom Bird out of Japan.
Yeah.
We landed in Alaska, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, but there were people there to greet us and take us to get something to eat.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
really great.
seriously, yeah.
Yeah.
And they did that for every flight, medevac flight coming out.
Yeah, that's really great.
Yeah. Oh, anyhow, so here I am, landed. Following day, you know, I called my parents, let them know I'm at Walter Reed, and okay. And then the neurosurgeons came and checked me out and everything. I said, "Hey Doc, give me a pass. It's the weekend. Yeah, it's a Friday. Let me go home for the weekend. Are you sure you're okay to travel?" I said, "Look, I was able to go to Tokyo. Yeah." I said, "Just give me some Darbon and I'll be okay." And so, didn't tell my parents.
That had to be great.
I caught there's a train that went into Harrisburg, caught the local bus, and it was a Sunday. That's right. I remember now. It was a Sunday because I knew on Sunday my parents and my grandparents would be get together at my grandparents' house for
Yeah.
eat. That was our tradition.
Yeah.
So, and it was shortly afternoon. So I had my duffel bag, didn't ring the doorbell, just walked in. And I'm standing there.
they had a cow, didn't they?
Oh, wow.
That had to be an amazing
Yeah,
feeling. That had to be awesome for both. I mean, you and them.
yeah.
It had to
Yeah,
be really
and
great.
It was, and of course, you know, my head shaven, I had the indentation, and
You know, I forgot to. Oh, so did your mother know that you were injured?
oh, yeah.
Okay. You know what? I think you mentioned you called her while you were in Japan or in
Oh,
Vietnam.
well, I called Japan. No, what it was, okay, going back to that,
Mm-hmm.
the neurosurgeon, Major Brown, that operated on me, said your parents have been notified.
Oh, okay.
And I said, no, I signed paperwork that they weren't supposed to be notified. He says, yeah, but your situation was critical and we had to notify him.
Okay.
Okay? So I thought, oh man. So my aunt tells me the story. She's on the front porch at my grandparents' house, because my grandparents' house became my home of record when I was in the service.
Okay.
Okay? So the taxi cab pulls up, taxi driver gets out and hands her the telegram. And it read something that your son, First Lieutenant Michael E. Bongart, aircraft commander, was shot down, aircraft crashed, but did not burn, which was a lie. And he says he received a penetrating head wound, the radioceptal lobe, you know, will inform you more. And that was about it.
That would be awful as a parent.
Oh, yeah.
To receive that information.
Yeah, and that's all they had. So they got a hold of our family doctor, and he's trying to explain that, you know, I was shot. Well, you know, shot. You know, the way he explained it, that the shrapnel went into the brain, and you know he could be crippled, paralyzed, could have visual problems. You know, they didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, they weren't.
Yeah.
As a father, I couldn't imagine hearing that.
Oh, and all right. Now, when I went in service, my mother and father divorced, so they started sending telegrams to my father, and then they sent him one that he's recovering well or something to that effect, and so he told me that he went to the barber shop, and one of the guys at the barber shop said, I'm sorry to hear about your son, that he died. And my dad thought he didn't get a telegram that my mother got. Yeah, so there was all that going on.
Yeah, that would be. I couldn't imagine. That would be an awful situation to be in.
And so when I walked in, there's my mother, brother-in-law, sister, aunt and uncle, grandfather and grandmother, at the table.
So to see you come back relatively normal
Yeah.
was a relief to everybody.
Yeah.
Good.
So, after only had a short pass, I went back, and initially they had me in a neurosurgical ward,
Mm-hmm.
and I was clowning around again.
Why not?
Yeah, but I was depressing all the others, and so they had to move me out, and they put me in a ward with amputees, and that kind of settled me down.
Yeah, it'd be kind of sombering, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and so anyhow, I can remember, and we're at a cafeteria at Walter Reed, and I was with these amputees, and one guy had his arm cut off, and there was another guy that just came into the ward, and this guy across from me was like a ringleader, and he said to the other guys, "Let him go, he's not ready yet." Meaning, he's got to get over feeling sorry for himself. He's not ready yet. And I thought, wow. And then in the meantime, there's this cute looking red-haired nurse that sat at the table not too far from us. I picked up my tray, I went over, I sat down right in front of hers, and I said, "Hi." And she looked, we started talking, and went back and sat down. And one of the guys said, "You know who that nurse is?" I said, "No, it's Pam." "Yeah. She's the daughter of a commanding general."
You gotta pick them, don't you?
Yeah. Well, ironically, Pam and I became friends, but she, you know, I was low in the pecking order.
Yeah.
But it was just a friendship kind of thing. So, now I'm there. Neurosurgeons, they're checking me out, and I do bed check, and I had this routine. Well, they had me go through this team, and it got to the point where whenever they come to my bed, I'd stand up and go through the routine without them asking me. And
Right.
so I was having a lot of fun with it. And they said, "Okay, we're going to send you home over Christmas and New Year's, and when you come back, we're going to reassign you." Or, you know, come back and we'll go from there. They didn't say reassign, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
Okay. So I went home, and, you know, I was home maybe 5-6 days, and all of a sudden, I wanted to hang up my trousers on a hanger, and I felt this tingly sensation in both my fingers. And whenever I went to open a beer can, I felt this tingling sensation, and it started getting worse. And, you know, all of a sudden I got a little nervous because, so I called the hospital and I said, "You know, this is what's happening." So they said, "Come back." You know,
Sure.
so I went back to the hospital, and they readmitted me. And started running tests and had me do all kind of things, writing things, and every test they gave me was, I didn't know it at the time, was running parallel to that I was getting MS.
Oh, wow.
Multiple sclerosis,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see, I didn't know it at the time. They just kept, and they finally, the doc said, "Going to have to do a spinal tap."
So were they thinking that was gonna be caused by the brain injury, or was they?
Well, see, Walter Reed was also a teaching hospital. Now I'm a guinea pig, okay? You know, and so they're running all these kind of tests to say, maybe we have something here. Maybe brain injuries can cause MS also.
Yeah.
And this I didn't know at the time. Anyhow, so he wound up, did 2 spinal taps. And fortunately, they could not find any black fluid in the the serum that they were taking out of my spine.
Yeah.
But they want to try one more thing, a myelogram. And once you hang upside down, they shoot dye down your spinal thing.
That sounds like a blast of a time.
Oh, yeah. It was, and then you gotta lay down for 24 hours straight and don't move, and get all kind of headaches and all that. So I had this myelogram.
Okay.
Okay. In the meantime, they're running all kind of electrocephalograms and stuff like that, you know. And it just went on, and I was still having these numbing problems in my hands. So finally, they sent me to a orthopedic surgeon or somebody, and he started checking me out. And he says, basically, what I want him to do is, I want you to fill up small Dixie cups and put popsicle sticks in each Dixie cup, and every 4 hours rub it on the back of his neck, or have him rub it. And so when I started doing that, eventually the tingling sensation went away. Um, then, so in the meantime, okay, they assigned me, they gave me a semi-private room. This is where things still get kind of interesting. And my roommate was a Lieutenant Colonel Chap Porter. He was an aviator, and he was one of the youngest lieutenant colonels in the United States Army. And he had some type of seizure in Vietnam. Was not combat related, and so he's there, and they're running all kinds of tests to him. And we became really good friends, and he had spent time in the Pentagon, and so he was taking me around. All we had to do was make bed check in the morning, and the rest of the day was ours. So we're going around to the restaurants and visiting all the sites, and I got this great tour guide, Chap Porter. And so it came time. They said, okay, Mike, you have to go before the Medical Evaluation Board. Okay. So, and I'll never forget this. I'll never forget, I go in, and this elderly doctor, kind of wired glasses, sour expression on his face has gone over, and he's like, yeah, you're gonna, he says, by law, I have to tell you this. He says, you may be entitled to some compensation when you get out of the service, so check with the VA. And that's about the way he said it.
Wow.
And I said, okay. And so he said, we're keeping you. Now the thing is, back when I was I was commissioned in the infantry.
Yeah.
Okay, my branch was infantry.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to flight school, I was op-conned to aviation units, but I was still infantry. We did not have a branch of our own of our time. So which meant they were going to send me back to the infantry.
Okay.
So I went back to room, and Chap Porter said, well, what happened? I said, well, they're going to keep me. And he says, you want to go back on flight status? I said, you bet. He says, let me see what I knew. Thank you. 2 days later, he says, I got you an appointment with the chief neurosurgeon of the United States Army. He wants to check your records. So his office was at Walter Reed. His Lieutenant Colonel Kemp, Kempe. It's like Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I go to his office, and he had an outer office, and explained to his secretary who it was. She buzzed and says, okay, go through the door. And I go in, and here's this guy, about as big as you, back in a chair, burly guy, has jacket open, tie not straight. And I go in, and stand in the pit. Oh, I forgot. I was promoted to captain while I was at Walter.
How was that promotion ceremony?
Yeah, they came by my bed and gave me my bars. So anyhow, I salute standing attention, and he does one of these. And I said, sir, Captain Michael E. Bongart reporting, sir. Let me see your records. And he's talking with this real thick accent. I found out later he was a German neurosurgeon in the German army.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but really a top dog. So anyhow, I reach over, I slid my paperwork to him, and I go back standing in the position of attention. And he starts looking at it, and he's looking at it, and he looks up at me. All of a sudden, he takes his hands like this and starts beating on the desk. And he starts saying to me, "What's wrong with desk? What's wrong with desk?" And I look at him, "Sir," he says, "you can have desks for the rest of the career in Army."
Oh my gosh.
I came out of a position of attention and I slammed my hands on his desk. I looked at him straight in the eye and I said, "But sir, desk doesn't fly, sir!" And I went back to the position of attention. He grabbed my records. He says, "You come back 1 year, we put plate in head." So I go back and I tell Chap Porter this. He says, "Okay, I'll let him know." A couple days later, I get a call, Pentagon. He says, "Okay, Mike, we're going to keep you in aviation status, but until you get your head fixed and everything, you're permanently grounded. But we'll keep you in an aviation slot."
That's not a bad deal.
Not bad deal at all.
No.
Then he says to me, "Where do you want to go?" "Savannah, Georgia."
Going back.
He says, "Okay." So they orders. I go back to Savannah. I go in. I get a motel room. I'm going through. Who do I look up? I look up Bobby Hernan, my old attorney friend.
Yeah.
I said, "Hey, Bobby, I'm back. I'm in a motel down there." He says, "I'll come and pick you up." He shows up in a brand new gold Cadillac.
He's doing well for himself now.
I'm looking, and he smiled. He says, "Yeah, I passed the bar and I won a big murder case and things are going great." So Bobby takes me under his, well, I had to go in and check in.
Yeah.
And so they sent me, I became assistant operations officer of Evans Army Heliport, which was between Hunter Army Airfield and Fort Stewart, closer to Fort Stewart than Hunter. And so that was my assignment. And then Bobby had a lawyer friend that had a nice apartment, street level apartment in downtown Savannah, right around the corner from one of those squares.
Okay.
And I got it at a reduced rate, and so here I am. And then I made friends with a pharmacist that knew me from when I was going through flight school. He and his girlfriend helped. Her father was in the furniture business, but we went out to his farm. He opened up his barn door, and I got all kind of really good furniture at a very cheap rate. So set up.
Mike, I want your luck.
Pardon me?
I want your luck.
Oh yeah, and there it is. I'm all set up, and so, and the thing is, I joined I was on the golf team, so I would play golf, and again I'm dating. I bought me a '69 Mustang convertible. Yeah,
not a bad choice.
Yeah, hey, just having them all.
I'm sure.
I'm great. And then after a year was up, I got orders. I got to report back to Walter Reed.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, I've always kept myself in good shape. I was a runner, and so there's a Forsyth Park, big park in Savannah. I'd run around that in combat boots and things like that. And so when I got to Walter Reed and checked in, there were two doctors that came and wanted to talk to me. And they said, "We want you to volunteer. We have an experiment that we want to try. It's with a drug called Robenal. And it's like atropine to dry you up, and we want to see how it affects the heart. Now, would you volunteer for this?" I said, "Well, what do I get?" Yes, and they were kind of, "Hey, can I have some extended leave when I get discharged from the hospital?" "Okay." I said, that's the deal. And then he says, okay, how much, and I said, you know, is there any pain involved? They said, no, we'll give you morphine, because that won't affect, you know, what we want to read. I said, okay. And so he said, how much do you weigh? I said, 250 pounds. And I was 155 pounds at the time.
Right.
And the guy looked at me and started laughing. I says, you'll be okay. So anyhow, and they saw it